on camera if you want, but if you're a Kappa leaguer, I need you up on camera. Make sure I can see. So you can see me, I should better see you. So Elijah, bring your camera down a little. And Jim, if you're able to come up on camera, that would be great. I know you're probably at practice or something. So those that don't know, Mr. Christian Womack is our Kappa League president, and Mr. Jim Lefford, he's our second vice president. So we'll go ahead. Okay. So with that said, right, as you heard me mention earlier, we have two great guest speakers this morning. Mr. Holland's going to be our guest host for today, which I appreciate. We have a fellow Divine Nine speaker, Mr. Brother, I can call you, Vernon Green, and our Kappa brother, AJ Coleman. But I'm going to allow our Kappa League president to do a quick introduction, and then Brother Holland, we'll turn it over to you. And then we'll let other brothers speak at the end once we're all done. So go ahead, Mr. Womack.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a good morning. Our guest speakers, like he said, will be AJ Coleman and Vernon Green. And I hope everybody especially the Kappa Leaguers, I hope we take something from it. And yeah.
All right. Look, everybody, thank you all for coming out this morning. I'm excited about today's session, as I've been excited about the ones prior to today. Today's session will be just as interesting and valuable, I believe, for the Kappa Leaguers as well as for the adults that are on the call, because we're going to hear from a young man who is a Kappa. He's gone through the process and he'll tell you his story. And I'm proud to call him my son. He's married to my middle daughter. And his life story is amazing and his future is bright. And I think it's always encouraging to see someone that has gone through what you're about to go through and to hear their story and ask him questions. So I do encourage the young people that are on the call to ask AJ Coleman questions as he tells us a little about himself. And then after that, we'll hear from Vernon Green. As was mentioned, he's president and CEO of a local company, a very successful local company. Entrepreneurism is vital, it's important. We don't always have to work for others. There's nothing wrong if you do work in corporate America. But if you have the desire, the passion, the vision, the creativity to do your own thing, Mr. Green is definitely somebody you want to listen to and ask questions of and make it interactive, not just the young folks, but the older people as well. So looking forward to today's session. I'll be letting people in as they come in, and we'll keep the discussion going. So thank you all again for coming. We are recording right now. Just to remind you, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Barnes, I believe. I believe he has some introductory comments, and then we'll move right on into the discussion with AJ Coleman. Mr. Barnes?
Brother, I don't have anything else to take. I already given my speech, so you can take it away without wasting any more time.
Excellent. So look, let's go ahead and hand over to AJ Coleman. AJ's in Clarksville, Tennessee, active duty Army, about to head on into officer candidate school. So AJ, tell us a little bit about yourself, and what would you like for this group to know about you from the perspective of a young man, a Kappa, and some of the things you've gone through and what some of your plans are going forward.
Thank you. Good morning, brothers. My name is Alvester Eugene Coleman Jr. I go by AJ. I'm a graduate of Caroline High School of 2012, and then 2016 of Hampton University, the real HU, not Howard. So what I like to talk on is basically resiliency and to keep pushing forward. I think one of our problems as young men and young Black men is that sometimes we might feel stagnant, or we might feel that not having a drive to keep going. when I first went to Hampton University, I went on a football scholarship, and my parents didn't go to college, so they wasn't really involved with me picking a major. But my football coach told me just to pick something that was easy, which was the wrong decision. But I picked sociology, just something that I could just get by on, and I was in ROTC as well. So in my mind, I was like, I don't care what I major in. I'm just going to do the Army thing, and it's not gonna, none of that's gonna matter, and I'm gonna pledge and just that and third. So once I started playing football, and I got it wasn't just local females in Carolina or the Fredericksburg area. I got to meet females from all across the world coming into Hampton. I just started to like see a different side of AJ that I just never seen before, and it kind of shocked me because it was something that I just never experienced. It was I look at it as a fantasy land. And once you get in that fantasy land, it's hard to get out, and it's hard to grasp on a sense of reality. So I played football. I started to pledge. My grades started to slip. And then ROTC started to slip. And I had to really talk to myself and wonder, like, this college career is only going to be 4 years. What am I going to do for the longevity of my life and moving forward? So I really had to buckle down and actually put my focus on my grades and put my focus on my life so I could actually be not just a better man, but a better citizen in the world, and not think of my short-term goals, but think of my long-term goals. So when I get to my senior year, I buckled down, and by the grace of God, I graduated in 4 years. And I was already in ROTC, so I had to commission as an officer. But since I didn't really take a grasp of what I was being taught as an ROTC candidate, I knew for a fact that once I got into the program, number one, I was going to be a reserve candidate, even though that's not a bad thing. But if I would have applied myself better in the program, I would have been an active duty candidate. So I had to think to myself, like, I didn't do too well in my major, so it's gonna be hard for me to get a job. I was supposed to commission as an active duty officer, but I got a reserve component officer instead, which would be only 1 weekend out of the month. So I had to really think to myself, am I going to take something that it wasn't one of my goals, but just be satisfied with it? Or am I going to, you know what, take a step back and redo it so I can like reach my goals tenfold? So what I did was I went into the Army as an enlisted soldier, active duty. And I said, I'm going to redo what I was supposed to do in my college career. So in order for me to be successful in my longevity career in the military. So I went in as an enlisted, and being an enlisted soldier, I got so much more, I had so much more drive for the Army and more sense to be able to continue what I wanted to do and know exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Rather than if I just would have came out of college, I wouldn't have appreciated it. But now I have senior leaders and senior personnel who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I was able to dictate what I want to do and where I want to do it. So now, rather than coming out of college into the military and saying brand new lieutenant, not knowing anything, just graduated, now I'm a staff sergeant moving into a second lieutenant, and now I see both sides of the realm, and I know what to do as far as on the other side, and I know what my superiors and my peers would want to see on the lower level. So I say all of that to say is don't be discouraged off of what you endure now, because like my father and my mother always say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And different people have different paths. Luckily, I chose a path that I always kept God first, and no matter what I went through, I just knew I just had to pray about it, and I knew I had to just keep moving forward. Like my godfather, he's actually in the Fredericksburg alumni chapter, Xavier Richardson. He used to take me every end of my semester at college, he used to come get me, and he used to ask me how was my grades, and I always used to tell him, yeah, they're okay. And I used to lie, but I didn't know he used to pull my grades because he knew the dean of students at Hampton. So every time he pulled my grades and then he would ask me how were my grades, I would say, oh, they're okay. And he knew they were bad. He would go behind my back to my advisor and make me do more work. And then I got put on, it wasn't probation, but I got put on I went to the dean of students office, and they was like, we're recommending you for summer school. And I said, why? I already took these classes and I passed. And they was like, yeah, but in order for you to raise your GPA, we would like for you to take them again. So I'm like, okay. But I didn't know that my godfather went behind my back and made them, hey, make him take this class again. But by me doing that, I turned my C's that I got into A's and B's. So sometimes when we have mentors and we have parents and uncles and aunts, or a leader, a superior figure in your life, and they're trying to tell you things that are better for you, but you don't see it. In your mind, like, hey, I did it. I'm getting by. It's okay. But you don't understand how much those little points and those little grades will affect you later on down the life of line. So I say that to say that the person that I was coming into college and the person that I am now is I see things in a totally different perspective, because if I would have kept the same mindset that I had then, now, I wouldn't be as happy as I am now, because now I see things with a brighter picture. I see things differently. And it's not always, I heard a sermon, like I say, like 2 months ago, God has us as like crayons. And sometimes God sometimes have to break our crayons in order to create a bigger picture. So if you're broken down, or if something happens to you, don't think it's just the end of the world, because everything happens for a reason. And sometimes we just have to break ourselves down just to build ourselves up to become a better man, a better citizen, and a better human. So that's my story. Yeah, that's all I got.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, AJ, for sharing your heart and for being transparent. I'll pause and ask if any of the Capital Leaguers have any questions for you. We'll take a second here to see what questions you all may have for him based on what he shared with us in his journey.
While you're waiting on a question, can I just make a comment, sir?
Absolutely.
Young man, your story is inspiring. I tell you that I've been in some of those exact same places, and it was very reflective for myself. And so what I will say is, you having gone enlisted before you go officer will make you a much better officer. I did 20 years, 5 months and 18 days in the Army, and I'm telling you, it becomes rewarding the more you put into it. So you be that leader that I can see in you, obviously, and it will do just as well for you, and you establishing a foundation and setting a way forward for your future career. I'm very proud of you, sir.
Got it. And while we're waiting, I do have a question for you. Maybe this is a question that some of the young men want to ask, but are maybe a little bit, uncomfortable asking. How did you manage being in college, being in a fraternity, and still get through, and playing sports, and juggling all of those conflicting priorities, I'll put it that way, in college? How were you able to manage through all of that? The fun, the parties, the schoolwork, the sports, and your parents, always having expectations for you, and Mr. Xavier, going behind your back. What helped you get through having all of those conflicting things going on in your life at that time?
I would say on the academic side, as far as football, we had mandatory study halls that we had to attend to, and if we didn't go, we couldn't play. And then we had to keep a minimum of 2.3 GPA. But as far as like pledging and a social life, I just make sure that all of my priorities were in order, because in my mind it was God, family, books, Kappa. So God like made sure like we had to go to University Chapel at Hampton, but it was more like a home church for me because it was Black church. But God, family, so my parents, I didn't live too far away, so they used to come and see me. I used to go and see them, and my cousins that went to ODU or Norfolk, and we used to take turns visiting each other, and I kept my friends close to me, and we always did things together. Books, like I said, study hall, and I made sure that my work was done before I went out and party. And I put Kappa last because even though Kappa is my brotherhood and I love it dear to my heart, it also came with partying and a lot of extracurricular activities that kind of conflicted with my academics in today's college. Because you have to think about it. I mean, we're not going to beat around the bush. We're being in a fraternity at a college is much different from joining a fraternity in like a later time in life, because you have to deal with all different aspects of the world all on you. It's kind of like you're a superstar, if you get it. Like if you're playing a sport, if you're in a fraternity, or the whole campus just has their eyes on you, and they're just is like if you get in trouble, like you're being made an example of. Or if y'all walk through and y'all stroll or y'all step, and like everyone has their eyes on you, so you have to make sure that you keep a certain limelight for everyone to see, so you don't shun down on the fraternity or make yourself look bad. So if you keep that same order, like I said, God, family, books, Kappa, or God, family, books, or whatever, I feel like you should be successful whatever you do in every field of endeavor. So
Got it. Awesome. Thank you, AJ. As we wrap up the section with AJ, are there any questions from some of the young men on here? I see Christian, Elijah, Xavier, Jordan. Any questions? Do you guys have any questions for AJ?
Did you you join ROTC when you first got to college or like in high school?
I did high school and college. So when I was in high school, I did JRTC, and then I went to college. I signed up for ROTC. But JRTC got me prepared for ROTC. So if you're in it now, I will continue to do it.
Did you get a scholarship from ROTC?
Yes, sir, I did. I got a scholarship for football, and then the other half was ROTC. So ROTC took care of everything, so my football turned into a refund check.
Nice.
Now that you're, you said OCS, right? You're in the OCS program?
Yes, sir.
Now that you're in the OCS program, how important it is for you to continue to seek out mentors? And how would you push that down, or push that down to the Kappa leader as the importance of always having a mentor?
I would say, sir, basically, no matter where you go, there's always someone above you or ahead of you that can help you. And you should always do the same tenfold. So when I was in school, I met someone who I pledged. His father ended up being a 2-star general. So when he was done, his father came up to me and he told me, "Hey, my son told me everything that happened. When you're ready to go to OCS, hit me up. I will write you a letter of recommendation." And to me, it was normally it'll be like, you know what? Okay, I'll just hit him up when I get there. However, I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. So once that time came, so ever since that day, I've been keeping communication with him for the past 4 years. So when that time came, it wasn't a, who are you again? Oh, I'll do that. It was, me and you have been talking for so long, and you have been giving me so much knowledge and teaching me how to play the game within the military system, that when I asked him the question, hey sir, can you write me that recommendation letter? He told me, I was wondering what took you so long. And it wasn't because he told me 4 years ago that he did me a favor. Like, what if he didn't remember? But I kept communication with him, and I kept engaging in conversations and asking, what can I do to make me a better leader, a better father, just not even everything about the military, but just about life as a Black man. And we just kept communication that he wanted to help me before I even asked him. So networking and communication and mentorship is very, very, very important, because you never know who you might need in any aspects of life. So it's best to keep those connections that you have at a tight grip and don't burn any bridges. Not what I would say, sir.
Really quick, if you're a capital leader, please come up on camera.
Okay, look, Mr. Davis, I think it is currently it's 11, almost 11:30. We know that Mr. Green is at an event, so I think we're going to move to the next speaker, if that's okay with everybody. AJ, thank you so much for joining. If you could stick around, I'd appreciate it. If you have other things to do, certainly understand that as well. You definitely poured a lot out, and whether the questions were asked or not, there's no doubt that a lot of what you said resonated with a lot of these young men, especially what you said toward the end about always needing mentorship and always being able to benefit from mentorship. The next speaker is someone I consider a mentor. I'm 52 years old. He's probably younger than me, but I consider him a mentor. So we always will benefit from having people that we can work with in different areas that can help us grow, just as you said. So thank you, sir, for what you shared. Awesome. Again, this is recorded, and we'll send the link out to Mr. Davis when we're done. So thanks, AJ. God bless you, sir. Now we're going to flip and talk about entrepreneurism. And before I hand the mic over to Mr. Green, I want to ask a question. And have you ever, and this is for the young men, for the Capital Leaguers, have you ever thought about owning your own business? Just a yes or no. If you have, just thumbs up in the camera. Have you ever thought about owning your own business at some point in your life? I see one thumb up. Xavier. What about you, Christian or Elijah? Hadn't thought about it? Okay, well, you're in the right place today. You may leave this call with a different mindset, realizing not only, can you do it, but it may be something you actually consider doing down the road as you grow and progress. So we're going to turn it over to Vernon Green, who's the president and CEO of G Cubed International, headquartered right here in Stafford, Virginia, very successful IT firm. And he's going to share with us his thoughts on entrepreneurism. And I know he's going to ask questions. So young men, get ready to ask questions, talk, be interactive. That's the best way to learn when it's bi-directional, when it's going back and forth, right? So get comfortable. It's a safe space, and get ready to ask some questions and to learn. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Green.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Pastor Holland. Thank you all again for allowing me to be here. Thank you, AJ, for that sharing of your story. I greatly appreciate it. A lot of the things that I'm going to touch on will also re-emphasize some of the points that you brought up in the first place. So I think this was a very good pairing. I noticed that when Pastor Holland asked about how many people thought about owning their own business, there weren't a lot of hands. Well, I will tell you that I didn't think about starting a business up until the day I started a business. When I was your age, I never thought about starting a business. I didn't even know it was possible for me. I grew up in a small place called Poughkeepsie, New York. Poughkeepsie, New York is the 11th worst city to live in the United States, according to Google. There weren't many opportunities. There wasn't much going on, nothing but gangs and fighting. I got kicked out of school in the 7th grade, didn't go back until the middle of my sophomore year. They said I was too dangerous to be around other kids. But at the same time, I was being cheated out of education. All of my opportunities seemed to be fleeing away because I wasn't in school. I didn't understand at the time that school was actually my job and my opportunity to get out of the bad situations that I was in. And so now that I was out of school for such a long period of time, I found other trouble. I started doing other things, and those things weren't good either. By the time I was 16 years old, I already had a child. I already had 3 jobs, and I was just heading in the wrong direction. At one point, I'll tell you that I tell people this all the time. My oldest child, having that baby changed my thought process. And I'm not telling you to go repeat my process. I'm just saying this was for me. That child made me think of someone else besides me, gave me someone to care about, someone to think of. And so I actually started doing better and trying to be an example and take care of a baby that was mine. And so I did wind up finishing high school, I wrote a letter. I only applied to one college. And I told them that I did not do well in school. I had bad grades, but if they gave me an opportunity, that I would show them just how good I can be. And they accepted me and they brought me in. That was Marist College in New York. I will tell you that I was not mature enough to understand, and I flunked out after one semester. I just wasn't mature enough. I wasn't ready. I didn't do it. I didn't have the study habits. I didn't go to school in my middle school and high school years. And so by the time I got to college, I had no kind of understanding of what studying and things like that was. And so it's weird that Brother AJ talked about setting up his priorities and scheduling the time for schooling and how he ranked those things in his life, because that's what you have to do on a daily basis. So eventually I decided to go into the Army. At age 19, I went into the military. The military taught me discipline, structure, gave me all of the things that I needed the tools I needed to try and to do better with my life. They gave me a career. I got a degree. I have a master's degree in cybersecurity. I have a lot of certifications, CISSP, Security Plus, Certified Ethical Hacker, a lot of those type certifications, and all those things came from my military time. Again, never did I think of going into business or entrepreneurship. That wasn't it. I was doing what I was doing in the military. I was being successful. It was okay. I did 4 years in Iraq, 2 years in Korea. I've been all over the world to do a lot of things, but everywhere I went, I continued to try and get a little better at what it was I was doing, which was IT. So everywhere I went, I learned something. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I never knew what I wanted to be. I just knew what I liked, and I kept getting a little bit better at the things I liked until it turned into a profession. So just keep moving forward on the ideas that you have or the things that you like, and keep moving those things forward, and they'll turn into something for you. Now, with that said, I retired out of the military in 2014 of March. I directly started my company in April of 2014 because of the fact that the camaraderie and the culture of the military, that environment that had helped me be that person, helped me develop leadership skills, helped me develop my trade and my career. I didn't see that in the civilian world, so I decided to start a company based on the 7 Army values: leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, and integrity, and personal courage. It spells out leadership. So those are the founding principles of our company, and those are the things that we hold each other accountable for. We accomplish the mission and we take care of our people, and those things help us be very successful. But to go back to an earlier point, through my entire childhood, all of those hard things, those difficult challenges, they all served a purpose. It was to help paint a picture. Like I tell people this all the time, especially adults. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're teaching. You're either teaching what to do or what not to do. And kids are always looking, they're always watching. And so I had a lot of examples of what not to do. But then what's on the young person's side is you have to realize that you always have a choice to make. You can either repeat that behavior that is not looking good, or you can choose to go in a different direction. And so I chose to go in a different direction because I didn't want my life to be everything that I was seeing around me. And so I implore you guys, because you're young and because you're in those time frames in your life where the decisions you make right now either amplify or degrade the opportunities you have for your careers and your future. Everything you're doing now, and it's not fair because you guys are young, you want to have fun, you want to do a lot of stuff. And I get it. But what I am telling you is, and I tell my own kids this, everybody makes mistakes. Stay away from the big mistakes that are going to alter your entire life. Stay away from the things that are going to limit your ability to have a career or to have a fulfilling life or to be impactful, to be a leader. Stay away from those mistakes, because the truth of the matter is, especially most of you being young Black men, there are a lot of programs out there trying to get you off the board before you even get started. If I can hit you with a felony in your teens, I ain't got to worry about you for the rest of your life because you can't do anything. So there's a lot of things that you guys have to be aware of. You know, getting in trouble with the law right now would take away your ability to vote. It takes away your ability to do many things. But let's go back to entrepreneurship. And I'm hoping that I'm laying a foundation, but I want to hear from you really on these topics. One of the reasons why entrepreneurship is so important, especially in our communities, is because if you look at where we are, we've been fighting civil rights for hundreds of years. The only thing that affects voting the only thing that affects politics are the number of votes and money. In every other ethnicity, they are able to go to, they can start Chinese food shops, they can start hair salons, they can do everything. But when Black minorities try to start businesses, we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have what I call an economic power base that we can go to make things happen. The reason why I have influence and a little bit of power is just because I have the ability to stroke a check. And if you want to make changes in your community, you want to make changes and give back, then you have to put yourselves in positions where you can offer an opportunity, help someone get a career, write a check to someone that you believe is going to represent you correctly. We don't have those economic power bases, and we have to start building them. And they come from you. They come from each and every one of you. You have ideas, you have concepts, you have things that we haven't even begun to think about yet. If I told you that in the next 10 years, they said half the jobs that will be in 10 years don't even exist right now. They don't even exist. They're going to come out of the creativity of all of you who are out there doing things, the way you communicate, the tools that you use. I'm a cybersecurity IT guy, and I'm telling you, some of the things that you guys do on social media and all these, I don't even keep up with them. So I'm telling you that you have a very strong ability, and you may not even be aware of the strength you have to set up an entrepreneurial mindset so that you can be one of those impact makers, one of those influencers, one of those people that can give back and give someone an opportunity. And I never even knew it when I was a child. It wasn't until much later in life that I started to understand. And that came from mentorship, people, good people around me, people who poured into me, or people that helped me understand. And that's why it's so important that programs like this, all of you young men being connected to these men who have had life experiences and have gone through things. You should be asking questions of these men. Every time you get an idea, you should be talking to one of them and ask, well, how does this work? Or how can I make this work? Or how can I make this profitable? Just run some ideas. So I'm gonna pause for a minute because I can talk for a long time. I love what I do, but I wanna give you an opportunity. Do any of the young men on the call have a question of me at this time?
All right,
So,
there you go. Go ahead, Christian.
oh, so the company that you like run basically. It's like like cybersecurity.
Yes, I have an IT and cybersecurity government contracting company. We do just under $10 million a year. We have about 50 employees across the DMV area, and we're expanding into Georgia and a few others right now. We have some contracts in Germany as well.
All right.
I have a question for you, Mr. Green, for the young men. They seem kind of, I guess the cat has their tongues this morning. One thing I'll say to you, young men, I said it earlier, this is a safe space. No question is going to be viewed as inappropriate or a bad question. This is the time to ask questions, even if you're not sure if it's a good question. This is the time to work on breaking out of your shell and communicating. If you heard Mr. Green talk, if you heard AJ talk, they are great communicators. Being able to communicate in your own way is so important. I have a 13-year-old son. I know how hard it is to get young men to communicate. So I'm not just fussing, but I can tell you that it's vital for you to be able to kind of force yourself to begin to interact and to talk and to ask questions, especially in environments like this. I wanted to say that, but I have a question for you, Mr. Green. Your story starts in a place where, as you said, from the outside looking in, no one would have predicted you would have been the owner of a company. What can you say to a young person that doesn't view themselves as having the potential to be successful, beyond what they've seen in their families? What can you say to them to give them some hope, some encouragement, or some guidance when they don't see that potential in themselves?
I love that question, because growing up, I was always told that I would never be anything but another thug. That's what I was told by family, friends, teachers. I never had a sense of confidence that I'd be sitting where I'm sitting right now. And to be honest, it makes where I sit right now that much more humbling, because I never expected to be sitting here. I never thought I could. But what I will tell you is it goes back to what I said before. We all have a choice. We all have a choice, and you make choices every single day. Make sure that you are making those choices that are going to keep you on a positive mindset, on track for your goals. You need to make the choices that are going to keep you moving forward. And speaking of which, on that same note, if you know what you want to be, great. If you don't know what you want to be, fine. What you should be doing at your ages is starting to look up what you think you want to be, or a industry that you'd like to be in, or something like that. And because this is the most connected generation ever in history, you can pull up every single requirement that's required for you to obtain that goal. So you start listing out all those tasks of what it is you want to accomplish, and you start putting a timeline on those tasks with the help of your mentors so that you have realistic planning. And then you just start checking off those blocks. You just keep on moving. And one day you'll look up and you'll be sitting in a CEO seat. You'll be sitting in a COO seat. You'll be sitting as a graduate of a program. You just have to be systematic in setting up your goals and executing them, and making sure you surround yourself with positive people that are going to encourage you and help you accomplish those goals. So even if you think you can't do it right now, know that you can, and it's proven. I will tell you another short story. Part of the reason why the hair that I wear locks right now, my time in the military, I was bald. I shaved my head every day because I didn't have the money to pay for a haircut all the time. So I just shaved my own head, right? But then when I got out of the military, I was sitting in the barbershop and it came across the TV. It said, the Supreme Court held up locks as a fireable offense in corporate America. And when that judgment came forth, I said, I'm going to grow my hair. But I need you to know this. I grew my hair because my business was at a position where I could withstand the repercussions of me growing my hair. To you young men, I say, you conform until your platform is big enough that you don't have to conform anymore. If you need to get on the job, don't go in there and say, well, why can't I keep my hair like this? You conform until you build up yourself, you build up your resources, you build up your company, and now you don't have to conform. I make my own rules, I do what I want to do, and what I want to do is help people. But I can wear my hair like this now because I am established, my company is established, they know the excellence that we bring, they know what we're about. But prior to that, they'll look at my hair and cut me short, won't even give me an opportunity, won't give me a chance. So you need to know that there are going to be some sacrifices, especially when you're young. There are going to be some sacrifices. But if you keep your head down, checking those lists, making sure you're making progress on your goals, you will look up and see that you have a lot more power, you have a lot more influence, and you start to accomplish those goals.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
I believe Xavier had a question. His question was, what are the steps to creating a business?
Let me tell you, it is so easy. You go online, you register your business name, you fill out your EIN, you can have a business stood up in like an hour, and it costs $100. And a lot of people don't know that. They just don't know that. You can start your business for $100, which is the registration fee to the SEC. And once you pay that, your business is up and running. Now, there's a lot more steps depending on what you're trying to do with that business. But just starting a business, it's that easy. And especially here in Virginia. Virginia has what's called Business One Stop. So you can go to that one location and sign up for everything. And once you come off that website, your business is established.
I think Amari has a question. Is your hand up, Amari? Unmute yourself and go right ahead.
How do I sell Lego robots?
How do you sell Lego robots? Okay. So first off, what I would tell you is if you're building Lego robots, take a lot of pictures and start pushing them out on your social media. As you start getting comments, you'll start getting a following for your robots. Then you start an e-commerce page, which also is not very hard, and you start selling your robots through your e-commerce page. And it's very simple.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone?
Hey, I'll buy one of those from you, Amari, for my grandson. So let me know when you get that e-commerce page up. Any other questions?
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
I got a question.
Hello?
Oh, okay. I'll let you go.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles. And then after you, AJ has a question.
Okay, all I wanted to say is that to the young folks listening here, you are getting some of the best instruction and some great knowledge that just follow what they say and everything will work out. But I'll put it this way, because I was very hard-headed when I was young. I missed a whole lot of opportunities that were told to me like these guys, but I didn't take advantage. So it took me longer to get than it would. So I'll put it to you this way. You sacrifice and work hard now while you're young, you will live so easy later. Because if you don't, it's fun and games right now, but when you get older, things will be so much harder that you could have took care of when you're younger. I just wanted to say, heed what these gentlemen say, because it is a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, Brother Charles. Another friend of mine.
Hey, Charles. AJ?
How you doing, sir? I just have a quick question. What would you, as a person who already has Security Plus, would you get CAS, CISA, or CCNA next?
That's a great question. It all depends on what you're trying to do. So understand that the IT field is huge. It's a mile wide, but only 10 inches deep. And so there's all these different areas.
Brother Green, since we got a Capital Leaguers on, can you explain to them what he just asked you, what all that means before you go into that? so they
Absolutely.
understand where you're coming from.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you very much, Brother Barnes. So basically, within the IT field, there are many levels of certification. And so he was just asking me which certifications he should go after. Now, list the certifications you said again. What was the first one?
Well, I already have Security Plus, but I would say
Security Plus is for government. Security Plus is the minimum requirement to have a system administrator level access on any network within the government. So that's the minimum requirement.
CCNA.
CCNA is a Cisco Certified Network Associate, and it is a proprietary system that runs on Cisco's infrastructure. It is the first level of certification for Cisco networks.
CASP. Oh, my bad.
CASP. CASP is a CompTIA certification, and it gets more into your security levels within the network environment. What's the next one?
CISA.
CISO. When you get into your CISO now, you're getting heavier into security. The only one I didn't hear you say was CISSP, which I will add to your list as a senior management level understanding of security. But all of these certifications are critical. But here's what's really important about his question. Right now, I'm working with Stafford County Public Schools and Germanna to try and make it so that you guys that are in high school, at your freshman year, you should be getting CompTIA IT fundamentals. In your sophomore year, you should be getting A+. In your junior year, you should be getting Network Plus. And by the time you graduate high school, you should have your Security Plus. Now, if I can get the schools to adopt this, when you come out of high school with a Security Plus, you can go straight into the workforce and then pay for your schooling as opposed to going in debt, trying to borrow to go to school. If you can come out with a Security Plus, you are ready and able to go to work.
I can probably add, even with that, some of the companies will pay for your education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sponsor you for security clearances and all of that. If you can come out with those certifications, and honestly, the things that you guys do at your age is not the things that we used to do. You guys know how to set up Wi-Fi networks and connect everything together and all that stuff. Do you know that that's the foundation of networking? So some of the things that you guys do every single day are parts of IT structure and IT information that you can expound on and become experts in, but you already have a baseline just because of the things you guys do. Any other questions? Oh, so to you, AJ, you are going to be an officer. I would say CISO is a very good one. I would say Security Plus is the basic. So I'm glad you have that. But are you going into IT officer?
Yes, sir. I'm in IT now, and I got a letter of recommendation to stay in my field. So
okay, because I was going to say, when you cross over to officer, you become needs of the Army, and so there's no promise until you get something in writing that you're going to go in IT.
yeah, that's why. Yeah, I have three letters of recommendations.
Okay, great. So let me hear some more questions from some of the youth, some of the young guys. Christian, you look like you got something to say.
Oh, I was thinking of something, but I was gonna ask, how long does the certifications take to get?
You know what? That's what's great about certifications. They don't take long. If you put in the time and the understanding, it's as fast as you take it. I've taken certifications. I've taken a week-long boot camp to refresh my memory and come out with a certification. It just depends on how much foundational knowledge you have, how much work you're willing to put in, and how long it takes you to get it done. But it does not take long at all.
Can I pull in that thread that you talked about earlier with the community college and the Stafford County schools a second?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you was talking about that course or a class that they probably could take, do you know with the community college level, if they can do it now, take a course like that to get that certification, even though the public schools don't have it just yet?
So there's two things that's going on. In order to change the school curriculum, it is extremely hard. It's really hard. So what I've offered the school district is to do either an after-school program or a virtual program that will get these kids at least visibility or access to this type of training. What I've done with Germana is basically saying, if they come with this training or these level of certifications, will you transfer that into college credits? And they said yes. So if you have the certification, you can take that certification to Germana and say, of course, they're probably going to make you take 1 or 2 classes with them first, but you will be able to take that certification and apply it towards college credit towards your degree.
Mr. Green, these are great. It's great input. I mean, I think Charles said it best. In the young men, I wouldn't expect you to understand this, but you're getting information today that a lot of people pay for. They pay for this sort of feedback and insight from people that have been there. So definitely take heed to it. 2 questions for you, Mr. Green. One, what's the one thing you would ask a person to look out for if they are going to start a business or begin down the road of entrepreneurism? The young man wants to do the Lego robots. What's the one thing you would ask him to be watchful for as he begins his entrepreneurial process? And then the second question, I know we're running out of time, is you're well known throughout the area as being involved in the community. And why, with all the things you're doing with your business, why do you put so much time and effort into what's going on throughout your community as well? So those are 2 questions I have for you.
All right, both great questions. Thank you very much. First off, business is not easy. It is not easy at all. And I'd be lying if I sat here and told you that every day was sunshine and roses, because it's not. It is very hard. And especially since from the beginning of business, their business consists of a lot of different areas to run a business. I was a great IT technician. I knew nothing about HR, knew nothing about the finances, knew nothing about a lot of different areas. So what I will tell you to be careful of is learn as much as you can, but make sure that you find people that you can trust to come alongside of you that believe in your vision and that can contribute to that vision. And that's even in that is not an easy task. There's many people who say they want to help, who they give you lip service, but really they're just in it for what they can get out of it. And so I will tell you, one of my practices is I hire slow and I fire fast. You got to prove to me that you deserve this opportunity. And if you get in here and you don't hit the ground running, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on you. That's one of the realisms of business. To your second question, sir, so the way that I truly got involved with community is through my daughters in school. Anywhere my daughters were in school and active, I was active in whatever they were doing. I don't care if it was orchestra, whatever. I did all the school trips. I've taken whole classes to New York to see plays. I've done a lot of things within. And so, wherever my kids were involved, I wanted to be involved. And so that wind up turning into my daughter came home from school one day. I'm going to say this really fast. Came home from school one day. I said, baby, how was your day? She said, Daddy, it was terrible. The boys were terrible. And they made the teacher cry, and the teacher ran out of the classroom and left. And we didn't get any of our work done. And Daddy, you need to come to the school and fix it. Now, I don't know what she was expecting me to do, but the next morning we got up and we went down to the school, and I spoke to her teacher and I said, ma'am, my daughter said this is what happened. She said, yes, that is what happened. I said, may I address your classroom? She said, yes. I said to everyone in this classroom, this is now my classroom. And if you disrespect someone in here, I will come back and you will have to deal with me. The teacher next door heard it and said, can you come do that in here too? I went to the next door. I said something similar. And then I started heading out to my car. By the time I got to my car, the principal called me on my cell phone and said, Mr. Green, we need you to start a program in our school. We need you to train the young men in our class and in our school. And so it became Extraordinary Young Men. And that was my first program under my nonprofit. Eventually, when we started teaching them STEM and character development and all these programs, the ladies came and said, how are you leaving out the young ladies? They need this stuff too. So we changed Extraordinary Young Men to Extraordinary Young Minds. And that program is now in 12 different schools in Stafford County. And so we are very proud and happy of that interaction. We work totally on volunteers, but we go and spend time with the kids doing programs, so forth and so on. And all the programs that my nonprofit are in are to address shortages that I had in my life. So transitioning from the military, we have a program for that. Starting your business, we have a program for that. Whatever hardships there are, we try to create programs so that people know how to go through it successfully. And so I know we're out of time, but I just want to say this. I know you guys are young, and I know you didn't have a lot of questions today, but I hope that you heard something that starts to plant a seed that's going to make you want to reach out to some of these men and ask, hey, I didn't want to say that then, but I have a thought. Can you help me? Because I'm telling you, the one thing that I did not have was people that I could go to and ask these questions to. And you guys are getting this from this group. So while you didn't ask a lot of questions today, I hope you will go back, think about what you heard today, prepare some questions. And if you get them to anybody in this group, Pastor Holland knows how to get a hold of me. He'll send them to me and I'll schedule some time and we can do this again. So with that said, I just want to say thank you. I enjoyed this. Brothers at Kappa, Divine Nine, you're doing a great job. And if there's anything I can do to support or help, please don't hesitate.
And one more question, one of the Kappa leaders asked, a little shy this morning, but he's putting his question in text. His question was about business and about money, about paying a percentage of your for your material and for the technology every month. Does that cost money? How much it costs, and is it true?
Okay, let me make sure I understand the question. You're talking about paying a percentage of
for the resources that you use to start your business.
So starting a business is extremely hard, and it depends on what type of business you're talking about. For example, Amari asked me about building robots. If Amari's going to sell robots, he has to first buy the material. He has to build the robots before he can sell them to make any recuperation of his money. So, and so it depends on what type of business. Most of my business is services, which means we have to do the work for a 30-day period and then bill the government for it, which can take 30 to 60 more days to get paid. So if that's the case, I have to have enough money on hand to be able to pay my people for up to 90 days at times before I ever get paid from my customer. So the truth of the matter is, from a financial standpoint, yes, if you have physical hardware inventory that you need to buy, that's probably going to come out of your pocket first and you'll recoup it on your sales. If you're doing services, you're really going to have a plan on how you're going to finance that business, because at least in government, it can take a long time to get your money back.
Did that answer your question, Xavier?
Xavier, do I see Xavier?
This camera's not on.
His camera's on. It's on. Xavier.
Let me chime in. Hey, Xavier, you have to come up on your mic and ask your question, so somebody's not trying to translate your question. Just ask your question.
Yeah, what's your question, sir?
He texted and asked, is there taxes involved in the business?
Oh, I know he did that. I want him to ask his question.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, this is brother Carol. This is his dad. So he's actually with me in the vehicle. Actually, we just stopped at a rest stop so he can use the restroom. So I think he's in a public restroom right now. That's probably why he didn't come off the mic. So I apologize for that. But we had been talking about this, in the car. So that's probably why he texted it. But
Okay.
I can speak right now for him because I know what he's been, inquiring about. He's a young entrepreneur. I'm a business owner, so we've been talking about different ideas. And just as far as taxes and things like that, what type of expenses, can he expect to have, as a young business owner, outside of inventory, things like that.
Okay. So you're
Actually,
right.
Brother Carol, it was actually the other Xavier.
Oh, the other Xavier was talking. Okay,
Right,
gotcha. All
yeah.
right, so I wasn't sure, but yeah, he had similar questions like that. So I just
Like, I was like, man, I don't see his name. Where did he ask that question?
yeah. Okay, good. Thanks.
And I understand, Mr. Aggie, I got it. He said it's loud behind him. That's why he couldn't come out on mic. So
Gotcha.
that's okay. Good respect.
I understand.
Appreciate it.
But business expenses, you're once again, it depends on what the business is. But you have your inventory expenses, you have personnel expenses, you have to pay, if you're the owner of a business, you have to pay the business side of your employee taxes. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. And so there are very strategic ways to get around certain expenses. Some people will hire what's called 1099s, where I'm not responsible for your taxes, you're responsible for your taxes. And that's an agreement between the two people that are being hired. But there's always, and this is why it's so important to do the research on business, because there are ways to get around a lot of things. If you ever heard President Trump talk, he says he doesn't pay taxes and you're stupid if you pay taxes. That's what he said. And he's been a billionaire supposedly. And he, as a matter of fact, he's been quoted saying, if you don't take advantage of loopholes or tax loopholes, then you're stupid. And so, and yeah, I take offense to it, but at the same time, it's not totally wrong. It's not totally wrong. Say again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking to myself.
You just got to know what you're doing and have people around you. But like, I do not claim to be an expert at every aspect of the business, but I did what I had to do enough to get it started, made enough money that I could hire experts in those fields. And then I hold them accountable and I'm dependent on them to do their job. That's what I mean by surround yourself with good quality people who believe in your mission, who can carry the workload.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Mr. Green, this is Brother Kurt one more time. I just wanted to share real quick, actually a success story that I think that may be inspiring for the young men in this call, because you mentioned them before, having a security plus or having some type of certification out of high school can get you a job opportunity right away. And, case in point, my oldest son, he's actually doing that right now as a systems administrator at 19 years old. Got his first shot out of high school because he had his A+ upon graduation from high school in Spotsylvania County. So I know, I commend you for doing all you're doing in Stafford, because that's an awesome program you have, by the way. So I want to definitely stay connected. Because I'm in Spotsy, we have what we call the Career Technical School, and they do provide the Cisco training so they can have an A+ upon graduation. So he's gotten his security plus and his top secret with the government, but he's working with Leidos right now and working to get his network plus. But they also are paying for him to do that and go back to school to get his degree. So like you said, that's an awesome way of leapfrogging the line to get to where you want to go. And just for the young man on this call, it's definitely possible because he was in your shoes not too long ago.
You're absolutely right. The truth of the matter is, I don't know if many people know this, but if you mess around and get a security clearance, the government finds you so valuable that they'll pay for your degree. And so there's just a lot of ways to get around the system. You just have to be informed. And I'll tell you, one of the things that inspired me as a young man, I was told this once. They said, and I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just sharing something with you that inspired me. They said, if you ever want to hide a secret from Black people, put it in a book. And that, it hurt me so bad that I started reading everything I could find. I just started reading just because. And that hunger for knowledge helps me to continue to try and improve myself on a daily basis. I'm not trying to compete with anybody else out there. I'm just trying to compete with myself to be better today than I was yesterday. And I hope that you will all take on that same type of mentality.
Everyone, Mr. Green, one thing you said about the security clearance ties back to what you said earlier in your discussion about not making decisions early on that can affect you later. Staying out of trouble, doing the right things when you're ready to go after your security clearance if you choose to go that route. If you've done some things as a young man that have resulted in incarceration or felonies or what have you, you can prevent yourself
Exactly.
from achieving that clearance and limit opportunities you may have in the federal government. So just another reason to really be mindful of who you hang with, the decisions you make, et cetera, because they can come back, to inhibit you later on in life. So
on that note, so there's a lot of things going on at the state level, at the federal level. And so I'm just going to say something where a lot of states are legalizing marijuana. I'm letting you know that it is still a federal crime, and it is still, if you try to get a security clearance, and that's still going to hinder you. So you need to be careful with that. Here's another one. People are talking about your social media now is now a place where they can check for your background check. So if you go in for a security clearance, they can go to your social media pages and just pull all that information. So what you're putting out there on social media makes a difference. It means something. So be careful how you are representing yourself. And like I said earlier, no, it's not fair. You guys are young. You guys, you're young. You're just trying to live. But I'm letting you know that there's some traps out there that if you fall into, it can seriously hinder your aptitude and just how high you can go. So please be careful. And if you have a question, ask somebody, find a mentor, talk to the mentor about what's going on, and heed what they tell you.
Okay. Well, look, it is 12:15, Mr. Davis. If this is a good time to pause, I think there's been a lot of information shared. I'm going to stop the recording now, unless anyone else has any other questions you'd like to ask.